GMAT introduced on November 7th, they introduced the Focus Edition.
Yeah.
So they changed it. So currently we are having Focus Edition. So is the old one currently existing?
No, they have stopped access to it. So those scores will no longer be accepted. If
It will be accepted, like if it was before this year, it will be valid for 5 years, right? From that point.
Yeah, so it will be valid, but essentially they are not accepting registrations for the OG exam anymore. So basically you can't register for the OG exam anymore. If you have an older OG score, it is still valid for the admission process, but requests for the OG exam are not being accepted anymore. So you have only, if you have not taken the exam, the only option you have is basically the FE. Yeah.
So I've just noted down the basic differences which have come, and you can actually tell what is your insight on that. So earlier section, there were 4 sections in the earlier GMAT, which was like quantitative reasoning, verbal reasoning, integrated reasoning, and analytical writing. In the new one, they have removed the integrated reasoning and analytical writing, and they have introduced data insights.
Yeah.
And have they introduced a lot of change in the existing ones, which are like quantitative reasoning and verbal reasoning?
Yeah, they've removed geometry, so your syllabus is become much more streamlined. You don't have to do as much preparation as you would have to do earlier, because geometry is like difficult to do. You have a lot of formulas to remember.
Yeah.
So your job is easier now in the quant section. In terms of verbal reasoning, also they have removed sentence correction. So your job is much easier now, because sentence correction would be the one area in which a lot of students would struggle. You would have like these long sentences. You had to find error in that sentence. It would be, it was a nightmare for me. After like doing all of this, it would be something that I would never be sure of. So removing that is a big like headache gone for a lot of students.
So that is it. So is there any addition in verbal reasoning because something is removed?
No, just remove it. They have removed geometry. They have kept only RC and CR in verbal reasoning. They have made it much more tightly defined, both in verbal reasoning as well as in quant. The only addition is basically the data insight section. It is an entirely new section which has been added. Now, this is basically kind of a second version or a higher level version of integrated reasoning. Many of the questions that used to come in integrated reasoning now come in this section as such, data insight section. So it's not entirely new. There was some version of this earlier in form of integrated reasoning. The issue is that earlier integrated reasoning was not part of your GMAT score. So even if you did poorly in integrated reasoning, your GMAT score would not get affected.
So earlier, the weightage was most towards quantitative reasoning and verbal reasoning, which was weighted equally to the total score.
50-50.
And now it's equally divided between the 3 sections, which is the quantitative reasoning, verbal reasoning, and the data insights part, right? So why did they use the other 2 parts in the earlier section, the integrated and analytical writing?
So they would actually send those scores separately to the MBA institute. So the MBA institute could then decide, do I actually use it or do I not use it?
So it's subjective in nature.
It's subjective in nature. Basically, it would not be part of the standardized score. So if a institute had a filter saying that, okay, I will take or accept like scores only above 650. So poor integrated reasoning would not make you, like it would not filter you out. But again, even after the filter, they would actually look at the score and decide whether or not I want, whether this is important or not.
So earlier it was like 3 hour 7 minute test. And now it's like 2 hour 15 minutes, which has like reduced
quite a bit.
So how do you feel when you take the test? You have taken both tests, right? The 3 hour one and 2 hour 15 minutes one.
Yeah, I think this is a better form of it, because I felt that the original test would be slightly tiring because it was a longer test and you had to actually write down like essays, etc. So it would be slightly exhausting by the end of it.
Or so the written test there?
Not a writing, you have to type it, but still you have to like formulate arguments, you have to think. And in general, when you're solving more questions over time, the fatigue builds up. You could choose the order in which you would do the
which one to go for,
which section you wanted to do first. But in the end, eventually the last section, there would be some amount of fatigue that would build up. So here you would not have that issue. A 2 hour 15 minutes is not that tiring.
So it's like 45 for each. So here do we have the choice of selection?
Yeah, you have the choice of selection of ordering of the this. You have 3 choices. You have to make that choice at the start of the exam.
Okay, so you have to start and choose the order and then go for it. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that will be much better for someone who is having less attention span and
less attention. I think it is better for everybody. I don't think it would be anybody who would be actually at a disadvantage over here, because it's better for everybody that it's a shorter test. It's the most streamlined test. if you are a working professional and you're having a job which is like 9 to 6 or 9 to 7, by the time you come back home, it's 8 already. It would be difficult for you to like study for a 3-hour exam as such.
Yeah.
So this is something that would actually make it much more accessible to a lot of people. Okay. Lesser syllabus, shorter exam, lesser number of things tested. So it makes it more possible for a lot more students to apply.